Hello and welcome to the crypto simulation. I am the Gaussian Snake and I'm going to talk to you about Chainlink. Should I buy today? Now, even though that has a title of Should I Buy, this is not financial advice and you should do your own research before you purchase anything in this highly volatile and speculative crypto market. Also, please join my free Telegram group at the Snake Pit for more. So after a pretty boring bear market for Chainlink, it finally had a move up in October of 2023 that sent it soaring all the way to around $23, which represents almost a 5x off the bottom. It has corrected by almost 50% since then and is now sitting at the top of a green concave up and narrowing Gaussian channel, which is traditionally a pretty bullish sign. Now, this doesn't mean that it can't go through its Gaussian channel, but the fact that it's been holding support at the top of it is something to take note of. In terms of fib levels, look where we got rejected, right at the 618 fib. That's such an important fib level, but look at where we're holding support on the 382. So assuming we don't crash through to the 236, which my base case is that we may come under here a little bit, but I don't think we're going to go all the way back to the 236. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't, but everything's a risk. I think that this is a pretty good spot to find some support. There's a lot of touch points here where we have held in the past and currently. So it's just something to keep note of. Let's pull up the VRVP. So in terms of VRVP, we're actually sitting at strong support for Chainlink right now at around this $13 or so 382 level, the 1228 or whatever that is, or 12. Yeah, I can't really see it too well. 1221 roughly. Yeah, we've got some really good volume support in this region that we've built out, and I think that this could very well hold. If it doesn't, then we would probably fall back to test the top of the breakout range, which would be around $9. That is certainly a possibility, and it could happen. So just be mindful of that. This could break down below the 382. It's not my base case for it to do that and go that far down, but there isn't really much volume support. There's a gap between $9 and about $13 that hasn't really experienced a whole lot of action. As you can see, only a move up and a move down recently, and then of course in previous market there was some stuff, but this is only tracking the data from looks like around May 2021. So swing high to swing low. Yeah, so I think that's something to definitely consider, is that we are at an area of pretty significant volume support, but we could fall down further. There's brick wall support from all this sideways action at $9 in case we would come back and back test that. All right, so we'll look at a couple indicators at the same time here. In the middle, we have the on balance volume, or OBV indicator, which the arrows are getting in the way of. And this tracks volume movement, and when you start to spot like a divergence in this indicator and the price is going in the other direction, like if price is going down and this indicator starts to diverge and go the other way, that can be an indication that a large buy might be coming. So it tends to be a bit of a leading indicator. This is the YCOB volume momentum indicator, which has just been generally showing decreased volume in buying and selling. There was a buy crescendo in October of last year, and that came on the back of something similar to what's happening now, which is a real decrease in volume in August. You can see there was a lot of selling volume throughout 2022, and once that kind of contracted, we got some pretty explosive price movement. Really hasn't been like a whole lot of selling volume. This isn't really that remarkable. So I would not be surprised to see some kind of divergence here and price start to go up. Now, generally, you don't like seeing price fall beneath a 10-week SMA, and that's not like a great thing, but Chainlink is holding the 40-week SMA. It's at a place where it's barely holding it, but it is holding it, and the 40-week is a strong SMA, and what we hope to see is that it could build out some support here in the coming weeks and maybe have a move higher. If we go below the 40-week, that could lead to a period of some bearish price movement where I would probably target, like I said, it's always good to consider different possibilities. I would probably target something in this area down here, like around $10 or so, if it had to come back and back test I really don't think it's going down here again though. So yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, maybe we get a little haircut from here to the $10, $9 range on a wick or something, like a 24% drop. That is possible. It's also possible we hold this line and continue our upwards movement. So, you know, hedge your bets. So we generally don't like to see a sharp movement down like this in the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Band, especially when it looks so healthy here and it was in a nice uptrend, quite explosive uptrend. But it's possible, and Chainlink does have a history of doing this, that we just kind of chop sideways for a while between where we're at now and maybe $23, $24 before we take a move up a little bit higher, maybe in a few months or so, to test this high that we had from last cycle. It would sure be nice to take that out, wouldn't it? As far as your more traditional SMA moving ribbons, they're not quite sorted out, but what I do like is that the 100 week is starting to curl up, and you can almost imagine later in the year it would, if it kept, Chainlink continued to be fairly bullish, that this could curl up and cross the 200 week, which Chainlink is currently below, which is not a great thing, but it is above the 50 week. It's below its 20 week. So we'll have to see kind of how this all, shakes out. I really would not like to see Chainlink come down to its 100 week, but it very well could. It could test this breakout point. I would expect that to hold beyond a shadow of a doubt, and for it to be a fairly quick movement if it did happen. Again, this is not something that I really like to see. Weakness with the whole moving average. We pretty much fell right through, and we are in no man's land below the 100 week whole moving average, which we have been above for a very long time. Now, this is a moving average we've fallen below in the past and been okay. If you look at Chainlink's history, it's happened before where we've fallen below it and then managed to curl our way back up. So maybe we can do that again. That would actually kind of be my base case. Again, I don't really see us falling down to this level, but anything can happen, right? So if we consider the logarithmic regression model for Chainlink over a long period of time, we can see that it hit the +3. This is again my typical +3 and -3 in both directions, standard deviations of 0.5 from the median line. We did hit the +3 in October of 2017. We went all the way up to the +2.5 in January 2018. Came down to around the -2.25 December of 2018, and then in 2019 we almost got to the 1. March 2020 we went down to the -1, got all the way up to the 1.5 in August of 2020, and then topped out close to the about 2.25 in May of 2021, and just kind of crashed our way into the -1. Held support really nicely there and retested it again in October before blasting off to the median line, which is where we spent most of our time. Unsuccessfully tried to get above the +0.5, and now we're coming down to the -0.5, which is around $10. So I'm not sure if we'll make it all the way down here. Just because we're heading down there doesn't mean we make it there, but that's just kind of some context of where we are. And I would anticipate some mean reversion pretty soon. Soon could be a month from now, or it could be next week. Who knows? But I would anticipate some mean reversion at some point to maybe take us back up in this direction to the mean line. And as far as like predicting the price of Chainlink and how high it could go, and again, this is just going to be like a wild guess. Seeing that it got up to the 2.5, almost got up there in. We'll say 2.25 in May of 2021, I don't think it's likely that it makes it up here again, but it could. Who the heck knows? So, just kind of tracing this out, if we did make it that high, we could see, and it depends when we do it, of course. I have no clue. If we were to do it by the end of this year, that'd be about $165 Chainlink. If we make it to the +2, which I think is reasonable, I think we could be looking at about $100 Chainlink. Okay, I think around here is probably pretty reasonable, somewhere in this range. Possibly lower, that would be a $65 Chainlink, again, for the end of this year. But if the bull run extends into 2025, these numbers grow quite a bit. Okay, And just because it didn't make it to the plus 2.5 doesn't mean it can't, right? It certainly can. It is possible. And you would be looking at potentially, like at the end of this year, it could be $165 Chainlink. So I'm not going to rule it out. You know, it can make it there, it could make it higher. None of this is ever a guarantee. We do generally have diminishing returns, and we know Chainlink's market cap is inflationary. So, you know, from $13 to $100 for Chainlink is a, you know, what is that, like about a 6 or 7x from current prices. So, you know, that seems pretty reasonable, pretty doable. I think it can go higher. I do, you know, but just kind of looking at the model, that's kind of where I would place it if the bull cycle were to end this year. If the bull cycle were to end like late in 2025, which I right now don't really see a path to it lasting that long, but you know, what do I know? And we were to make it up to this top line, that would be like roughly, you know, $117 Chainlink. If we made it all the way up here, $173 Chainlink. So I think there's a really good chance we breach $100. But as far as like how much further we go from there, it's really hard to say. Now, what I really like right now is that the Snabble RSI for Chainlink is quite low. And I mean, it's coming in at historically low levels. Like, it hasn't been this low since June of 2023, or before that, May of 2022. So these, I mean, it's at the levels it was at in November of 2021. So this is a pretty low level for Chainlink. And I feel like, you know, we're seeing a little kink here. We could see some bullish divergence. Now, that's no guarantee it doesn't dip below this green line, but it hasn't done that too often in Chainlink's history. I mean, I can only count 3 times total, and they're usually spaced apart pretty far. So I'm thinking we could be at a bottom right here in terms of RSI, and maybe somewhere around $13. I know it went down to like 12 something earlier yesterday, and it could be a pretty reasonable place to expect some kind of reversion. Now, I'm not thinking we're going to go all the way to the top of the range like we did here in November. And before that, you know, you're talking all the way back in 2021. So it might be a little while before we get that high, but we could see some reversion and chopping and, you know, accumulation. Something like that could play out. The Gaussian filter MACD is printing a trigger sell right now in terms of like the way the channels are running, but you know, this could kink up at any time to head to the upside. The trigger sell occurred, a short signal on April 1st, so we are now about 18 days into that. So yeah, I mean, we could see this turn around soon, or it could go lower. No way to know. But that RSI definitely makes me think we're not far from a bottom on this. And when I mean bottom, I mean like a bottom for where we are in the range. Link Bitcoin was one of the top performers against Bitcoin in the last cycle. It just pretty much went like straight up from 2017 all the way to, I mean, like it was on like a freaking 3-year bull market. So yeah, it needs some time to cool off. Gaussian channel on the weekly just turned green just a few months ago in January. And it formed this very bearish M pattern, and it sliced through the green Gaussian, which is not really something that you want to see. But what I do like about this is we have just printed very recently a pretty convincing double bottom. And I like double bottoms because double bottoms tend to be quite bullish. Now, do I expect Chainlink to go on a wild run against Bitcoin like it did in its first bull cycle? No, I don't expect it to be that dramatic. But I do think that Chainlink has a chance to at least take, you know, I don't know if it'll necessarily take it out, but I think it has a chance to at least test the high against Bitcoin from before. So if you know, we're looking for kind of a safe play against Bitcoin, and you know, think that Chainlink is the play. Sorry, I'll do that one more time. I got my magnet tool on. It's probably screwing things up. Let me turn that off. Try this one more time. Sorry about that. There we go. Sometimes the magnet tool gets in the way. I got to see where I'm at here. Okay, so that would represent almost an 8x against Bitcoin. Okay, and what I like about this time in the cycle that we're in right now with Bitcoin is let me see. I'm going to overlay the Bitcoin graph so you can see what I'm talking about. If you look at the last cycle, Chainlink really started to run like when Bitcoin got kind of boring, right? Even when Bitcoin had its secondary scare heading into the COVID lows, Chainlink did drop, but it held the top of its green Gaussian. So, Chainlink did well last cycle when Bitcoin got boring. And I have a theory that it's going to do the same thing this cycle, and I think that time is coming very soon. The halving is today. Bitcoin halving is today, and you'd think I would be doing a video on Bitcoin. Probably should. Maybe I will if I have time later. But I think that we're going to see something special from Link again when Bitcoin starts to get boring, which, as you can see, Bitcoin is all the way up here right now, heading into the halving, and we could see a slow bleed out of the halving. It doesn't have to be a dramatic bleed, but I do think we'll see some more downward price action by Bitcoin. But there were times when Bitcoin was moving down and Chainlink was moving up in the last cycle. Or I should say Bitcoin was moving down and maybe Chainlink was also moving down, but not as dramatically as Bitcoin. That's because Chainlink was outperforming Bitcoin. Will it outperform it again is the big question. Do you think that this was a strong enough pattern that we could see something maybe a little less steep play out? I think so. I do. I think that Chainlink will find its footing, especially, we have Ethereum, Bitcoin's starting to bottom. And keep in mind, Chainlink also outpaced Ethereum as well. It outperformed Ethereum early on too, because both Bitcoin and Ethereum were rather boring when Link was taking off. And it kind of led the way, for a while before other altcoins sort of caught up with it. Was it the best performing altcoin? No, it wasn't. And do I expect it to be the best performing altcoin this cycle? No, I don't. But I think it's a fairly safe play. Link to me is one of the blue chips in the space. I've talked about Link in a previous video, which I'll link here. It was called Battle of the Oracles, so you can check that out if you want to learn more about the fundamentals. But I think Link stands a chance to do really well against Bitcoin in the back half of this year, assuming that's when the bull market, hypothetically ends, or I would just say the second half of the cycle. I think Chainlink could very well lead the way. As always, do your own research before you decide to buy anything. Be aware of the broader market conditions and accept the risk that you're willing to take. If you'd like to learn more about Chainlink and other projects that have kind of come on my radar, more about Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like that, be sure to join my free Telegram group, the Snake Pit, and I'll hook you up also with a portfolio management tool that pretty much allows you to manage your DCAs into the market, and it's something I created for myself that I used last year, and you may consider it to be helpful if you're interested in learning how to dynamic dollar cost average into the market. So I hope you found this video informative. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and set the notification bell for this channel so you can be notified of all future videos. And also enjoy the Bitcoin halving. If you're watching this on halving day, this is only the fourth halving in Bitcoin's history, so it's quite a significant day. And I would expect to see some volatility, which we've already been seeing this entire week for various reasons around the halving, both before, during, and after. So just be careful out there. It's a risky market. All right, folks. Till next time, take care.